Hello and welcome to day 13 in this What If series, Contemplations for Life Transformation. And today I'm talking to you about what if you listened. So I did some searching because in a lot of the personal development books that I read, there's lots of talk about how leaders really listen. And I wanted to find something that would really sort of put what I'm trying to say into one succinct sentence. And I think I found it. So here we go. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand, they listen with the intent to reply. And that's by Stephen Covey from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And when I read that, it really resonated with me because I could see how myself I've done that. And it's only now that I'm reading so much more about learning to listen as a leader that I understand the power in listening. So I want to know, can you relate to that? Do you know that very often you will interrupt in a conversation or you're not even really hearing because you are literally waiting to have your say? Are you always desperate to put your point of view across and reject somebody else's opinion, or worse, just not even listen to them at all and walk away? Roy T. Bennett says, don't just hear, listen. So what if you did listen? So if you ever listen or watch Simon Sinek on YouTube, or you've read any of Brennan Burchard's book, particularly his latest one, High Performance Habits, you'll understand over and over again why they talk about the power of listening. You see, if you walk into a meeting and you open it with, right, here's the problem, these are the solutions I've got, what do you think? You're almost kind of saying to people already, I've got the solution, but let me hear what you've got to say anyway. When we have that ability to be able to sit and open up the conversation to everybody else first, we gain so much more from that conversation. Not only personally, but we are giving somebody else the opportunity to be heard. They're being valued, and we can learn to ask the right questions to delve deeper into that. So in the blog, I have actually connected a link to the Simon Sinek YouTube clip that I wanted you to watch on that. Brennan Burchard, in his book High Performance Habits, also talks about how he has seen many a leader be taken from that pedestal because of their inability to listen, because they believe they have the right solution, they believe they have the answer. And in that, they close their ears off to somebody else who might have something magnificent to say, but they're not willing to hear it, and that's where they fall from their leadership role. So if you listened, would you achieve a greater understanding of someone else? And would you be able to accept, if not agree, even if you can't agree, with their opinion? Listening is learning. There is always something new to learn. One sentence has the ability to change your life forever. Think about, I'm sorry, I love you, it's a girl, I'm sorry, there's nothing else we can do. When you hear those sentences, those statements, they have a very, very powerful impact, an immediate impact on your life. But you see, everyone we meet on a daily basis has the ability to gift us something with their spoken word, just as we can give back. But you must be open to listen. And perhaps when you truly start to listen, what is really magical is that you start to hear what isn't being said. So asking the right questions. When you choose silence and dedicate yourself to really listening and paying attention to what somebody else is saying, you might actually start to hear what they're really trying to say to you. You know that statement, read between the lines? What if we hear between the words? There is a tendency for some of us to hide what we really want to say for some kind of fear, rejection, humiliation, rebuttal. But when you become a leader, you have this kind of inherent learning that you get where you start to really tap into what they're saying. You're going to pick up on micro changes in their physiology and in their physical stance that will let you know on a deep level there is something else that needs to be said, but they're not saying it. So when we do that, how do we help them to say it? We ask them the right questions. We empower them to speak freely without fear of judgment or humiliation. Isn't that the most amazing gift? The gift to empower somebody to claim their free speech, to help them to open up, to speak their passions, to speak their mind, to offer their opinions. But we can only do this when we're truly listening, because when we truly listen, we truly connect. We don't just listen with our ears, we listen with our entire body, with our soul. This has the power to mend the most broken relationships. And so think about what that means on a worldwide level when we can learn to communicate with other countries and other people. What don't you want to hear? Unfortunately, in many instances, when we shut off to listening, it's because we don't want to hear it. Maybe you don't want to hear that your kid's been bullying somebody at school. Maybe you don't want to hear that your partner's unhappy. Maybe you don't want to hear that your doctor's saying to you, if you don't lose weight, Louise, you're going to become diabetic. Maybe you don't want to be reminded of the fact that you made a mistake and you don't want it pointed out again. Whatever the case, very often when we refuse to listen and we get angry or we get defensive, it's because we know we are avoiding some part of the truth, or maybe all of the truth. But what will you gain if you start to listen? Better health? Because not listening can be linked to anger and bitterness and resentment, all of which can lead to physical dis-ease in the body. I would highly recommend you read How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, because there is some profound proof in there of the physical power of worry to completely disable somebody to a point where they can barely live. Maybe what will happen if you start to listen is you'll have improved relationships. You'll drop that need to be right. You'll be able to find out, where does that person's opinion come from? What part of their life made them think this way? Can I challenge that, but in a great way? And can I also be challenged with the way that I think? It takes time. It's a habit well worth practicing. And maybe what you'll gain is a better world. Have you ever smiled at somebody along the street and they kind of look at you as if to say, I'm not really quite sure what she thinks she's doing? Because it's not the done thing. It's not the done thing to say good morning to people. I say good morning to people all the time. And sometimes I get reply and sometimes they just walk on by like I'm some kind of crazy woman, which I sometimes am. But how about that chat with the old lady in the supermarket that may not have spoken to anybody all week? How about carrying out a random act of kindness or sparking up a conversation with a stranger on the bus? How much nicer would it be, our world, if we reached out every day and said to somebody, hey, how's your day? How are you feeling today? What you got going on? How much nicer would that be? I really want to encourage you to think about where you're listening. So here's today's exercises. Where are you refusing to or finding it difficult to really listen? Think about all the different people you come into contact with on a daily basis, from the people that live in the house with you, to the people that you work with, to the people that you interact with on your journey to and from work, teachers, bosses, colleagues, everybody. Do you find yourself always fighting with your children or your spouse? Are you getting stressed at work? Can you find yourself getting to the coffee machine and having a good bitch about so-and-so just in the office next door? Do you shout at the TV when the news is on because that's just somewhere where you don't want to listen? Or are you arguing with the same person over and over again about the same thing and you're in stalemate? What do you believe you're achieving by proving yourself right, by refusing to accept somebody else's opinion? What would you have to do to bring more peace and acceptance into this space? To agree to disagree? To ask better questions? Or maybe you might even need to end that relationship because it's going to just be a no-go zone from now on. How can you go every day out of your way to listen to somebody? Can you start your meetings at work with, what does everybody think about? Or what made your weekend great? Time to mix up the status quo. Will you decide to spark up a conversation with a barista in the local coffee shop? Or maybe just say to your kids, look, let's have 30 minutes and share some tea and toast and conversation. Where are you not being heard? And how can you start asking people to gift you some listening time? I'd love to know how this works for you. So let me finish on a mantra. When I listen, I empower myself and others. I always have the choice to accept without agreeing. When I listen, I empower myself and others. I always have the choice to accept without agreeing. As always, please share these what ifs with other people that you think may benefit. Please come leave me your comments on the blog. That's always in the link below here. Comment on the video, or come and find my group at Women Embracing Wealth on Facebook. Let's start changing the way we look at things by asking that question, what if?